Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. That's right, today it's another petrol head night with another Formula 1 car, one of the most iconic Formula 1 cars of all time, the Tyrrell P34 six-wheeler from 1976 and 77. In fact, this version is actually the original 76 one. Now, just got to say first of all, this review today is entirely due to the generosity of one of our subscribers, cyber leader Andy. Many of you know from the chat, who has very kindly donated this. Can't believe it, it's like my birthday. He knows I love Formula 1, of course, and he's had this in his stash and said, I think you should have it, which is very kind of him indeed. And it will, you know, this is the sort of thing you either keep or you build. You don't sell them on because they're quite hard to get hold of from time to time, these now. Tamiya's at their best, really. Anyway, I'll tell you a bit about the car. A bit I know, but I haven't opened the box yet, so I haven't read whatever they're going to say. It might be in Japanese. I don't know if it's that era or not. Anyway, what do we know about this car? Well, obviously Ken Tyrrell, a gentleman who formed his own Formula 1 team and actually was a timber merchant. He had a timber mill, would you believe, of all things, down in Surrey, I think it was. And of course he shot to fame in the late 60s and early 70s, especially when he had Jackie Stewart driving for him. Later, after Jackie had hung up his helmet, he had other drivers like, in this case, Jody Scheckter in 1976, Scheckter and Patrick Depailler, the Frenchman. Scheckter was South African, of course. And this car, the most peculiar looking thing, which instead of having a conventional layout has 6 wheels, 2 steering wheels at the front. And this is most curious. The idea being, designed by Derek Gardner, one of the brilliant Formula 1 designers of the 70s. It was intended, by the way, to have a big airbox on the top, but that was actually banned by the FISA, as it was then, now the FIA. So the rules got changed and they couldn't have the airbox. But it wasn't really critical anyway. You saw these airboxes in 75, 74, I think, as well, when you had the Ferraris and the McLaren sporting them, you know. So, yeah, that had to go. I think it made them look a lot more elegant without the airbox, if I'm honest. So when you see, you know, the Rush movie with James Hunt versus Niki Lauda in this season, the 76 season, so you had that beautiful looking Ferrari, you had that really nice looking McLaren, and you had this quite remarkable looking thing from Tyrrell. And the idea was that you have these 4 small wheels at the front, extra small, which I think the tyres made specially, actually. And the idea was to reduce the frontal area and to reduce the aerodynamics drag, basically. And this is why you have this, if you look, it has this very, zoom in a bit so you can see better when I'm looking at me. So you have this low, like a snow shovel almost, frontal area. And then we've got, obviously, the air then flows over the tyres. I mean, nowadays they would have all sorts of turning vanes and you know, God knows what to try and modify and moderate the air going in different directions. But it's quite a simple thing. It goes over there and then it's got a flip up, directing the air over the big tyre and away. Now this is a pre-ground effect car. It's one of the last couple of years before ground effect came in fact. And it actually worked, you know. I know Jody Scheckter's made a couple of interesting videos about this where he's complained about it being actually a little bit unreliable and a little bit difficult to handle sometimes on certain circuits. I think places like Monaco it's quite hard work. But it did work on certain tracks, and for example it actually won a Grand Prix. It's the only 6-wheel Formula 1 car that's ever won a Grand Prix. The Swedish Grand Prix in the summer of 76 with Patrick Depailler, Scheckter's teammate, coming in second, so it was a swept the board to victory, you know, so it did very well, and it could be very competitive in certain races as well. What was the other race it did very well in? Was it the last race? I think, if memory serves, didn't it come second or third in the final race, the one where James Hunt won the championship? Mario Andretti, I think, won the race. Did well in that as well. You can imagine in the rain, it's got an extra set of wheels, it's got more grip, so with wet tyres on, gives you a bit more grip, a bit more control, so you can imagine it doing quite well in wet conditions. Anyway, without further ado, let's take a look and we'll talk more about the car as we go along. So, this is Tamiya, kit number well, it looks like it was the first one. Kit number 2001, not 2001, but 20001. Tyrrell P34, and it says on the side, picture of Ken Tyrrell, I'll show you in a second. It says the Elf Tyrrell Project P34 was the first six-wheeler car to appear in the long history of Grand Prix racing and caused a great sensation amongst fans and participants. The revolutionary wheel arrangement was designed to reduce the air resistance at the front and increase manoeuvrability and added braking power. First race at the Spanish Grand Prix in May '76. So it actually won a race quite soon after it was introduced, didn't it? Because I'll tell us in a second about the way it won. Driven by Patrick Depailler. 4 Grand Prix later, and with many modifications, Elf Tyrrell team became the first and second with Jody Scheckter and Patrick Depailler respectively. So 4 races and it won. That's pretty impressive. And such a revolutionary new design. It's incredible. It won first and second in the Swedish Grand Prix. Six-wheelers were now a force to be reckoned with. In 1976, the first year that the Elf Team Tyrrell raced its six-wheelers, they came third in the Constructors' World Championship, beaten only by Ferrari and McLaren, and that is quite remarkable. So Derek Gardner's design, it was a winner, wasn't it? It was a winner. I know that they started to do all sorts of other developments later, but maybe it'll tell us more about that. Let me zoom into the pictures, because this is a really nice machine. That beautiful Ken Tyrrell blue. He never compromised. He kept all his cars like basically in this blue, pretty much up until the 1990s when some of the sponsors, people like XP, took over with a bit of yellow. But he really did. You see the overhead profile, how remarkable it looks with the extra set of wheels at the front. There was a second, there were actually 2 other six-wheeler designs that I can recall. I'm working from memory here. I remember there was a March as well, but the March had the double wheels at the back. Because actually I think it was realised later when they started getting into ground effect that you really want to reduce the drag at the back, not necessarily the front, because the frontal area soon corrects itself if you have the right profile at the rear, which is what kind of ground effect almost is as a description, if you like. And so they all started pursuing the idea later of having the 2 wheels at the back, 2 small wheels. And it also meant that you were reducing the biggest wheel of all, getting rid of that. So it's probably a bigger net gain. And of course Williams famously had the FW08C, was it? The development car, which had this, and they've actually run that at up the hill at Goodwood a couple of times in recent years. I think I saw it. It looked really, really cool, and it was driven in the hands of Keke Rosberg back in the day. But it wasn't, in the end, I think the FISA actually banned them, and so it was never actually run in the Grand Prix. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's look at the Tyrrell. On the side, by the way, other side, we've got some more classic 70s cars, some of the ones I've just alluded to. And you've got the 1975 Ferrari 31T on the left. See what's talking about with the airbox, which that had to be dropped for the 76 season because of the rules. So the McLarens also had a similar airbox, but this is pretty sure that's a 76 McLaren MP23. So it's a later McLaren without the big tall airbox, which weren't allowed anymore, and they had that previously. And then again with the tall airbox, so this will be a 75 spec, Brabham BT44B. So the C model, I think they had to drop it. They ran it without the airbox later. So there you go. Very nice, iconic 70s racing cars. Many of you will remember them of a certain age. Some of you will remember them from Scale Extric, I think. Yeah, maybe not this one then. Let's have a quick look. Shouldn't take us too long this. Thank you to Andy. It's very nice of you to donate this to me, but it's gone to a good home, I think. It's gone to a good home. Now, if you'll just excuse me, I just realised there's a danger of us running out of power here unless I'm incredibly rapid with the review, and I don't really want to rush it. So if you'll just bear with me a second, I'll zoom you back in, and I will let you just peruse that Tyrrell for a second while I go and get my power sorted out. Bit unprofessional, isn't it? I've been unplugging things and I forgot to plug my camera back in. Let's soon get that sorted for you. There we go. So there's no cutting the recording. There we are. All done. So, we're now free to be as long as we wish. Oh, I can hear you groaning. So, the six-wheeler then, what do they say? There's a picture of Ken Tyrrell here, a signed picture with the... and Tamiya are very good at this thing where they do a finished model, you know, really nicely built by some expert modeller. Always do a nice job of that, and there it is, black and white unfortunately, which is their way. But they say, I think this is worth hearing. I'm going to read this because it is such an important car in history. We should hear it. So it says, the six-wheel Tyrrell P34 Grand Prix car was sponsored by the Elf Petroleum Company, the second largest oil company in France. The allegiance between Elf and Ken Tyrrell began in 1968 with the French Matra chassis powered by the then new Cosworth Ford DFV V8 engine for Jackie Stewart. 9 years, 3 world championships and 28 Grand Prix victories later. He was a successful guy, Ken Tyrrell. He wasn't so successful later in his career, but people sometimes forget just what a winning machine this, you know, his organisation was really. Elf Team Tyrrell represents the longest standing and most successful sponsor partnership in the history of Formula 1 to this day. Unless you count Philip Morris. I think that's probably been exceeded by Philip Morris now with the likes of Ferrari particularly. Marlboro. Anyway, the basic concept of six-wheeled Elf Tyrrell Project 34 Formula 1 car is a major step forward. Some slightly strange English in this, so bear with me. I'll try and dial it out if I can, but if it sounds wrong, it's not me, it's the way it's written. The idea being, according to designer Derek Gardner, who explained, motor racing is such a very, very competitive sport that such a tiny advantage can make a disproportionately large difference in the results of a race. A Grand Prix car should be as fast in a straight line as it is possible to be on the corners and brake effectively. In a race, one assumes that all cars corner at the same speed, so you have to overtake on a straight, and that is difficult when nearly everybody has the same engines. Now this is particularly an issue, wasn't it, in the 70s, if they all had the same engine, literally, you know, till the turbos came in. He goes on. Or you could overtake into a corner. You might have a car that does not handle as well, but if you are fast on the straight and you have good brakes, you'll be faster around the circuit. And that's, again, just to cross-reference what I just said, that's exactly what Ferrari did with their turbo engines in 1981 onwards, 81, 82, especially 81. The first Ferrari, the C126CK, I think it was, 126CK Ferrari, that Villeneuve and Pironi drove. It was hideous. It was not a good handling car. Didn't have good ground effect or anything like that, but it just had a boatload of power and would sail past people on the straights. Because we saw that at the Jarama Spanish Grand Prix, where Villeneuve held up a queue of 7 cars lap after lap, and they all finished line astern, a queue of 7, all frustrated. They would get ready to overtake him coming out of the final bend, and he just put his foot down and be gone, and on it went, and they were all over him, all over the circuit, frustrated and annoyed, couldn't get past, you know. Anyway. Those are the days. Goes on to say, our aim was to build a car no worse than an existing car in the corners, but with superior speed on the straights and a better braking system. From the wind tunnel test we knew it would be fast in a straight line, and the advantage gained in braking with our new layout was was an elementary calculation. The wheels generate lift and drag on any racing car, so to completely shroud them in sports car body would greatly increase the speed. However, the current regulations at the time limited the width of the nose to 1500 millimetres, 1.5 metres. The width of the nose. The width of the nose, 1.5 metres. Okay. The width of the nose. And this resulted in a narrow track and deteriorated cornering. And if you have 4 front wheels, you don't need wheels to be the same size as a conventional car. It can be smaller. So we asked Goodyear to make them especially small tyres, is what I'm saying, isn't it? Even smaller than those we now have on the car. When the Goodyear people told us the tyre size they could produce for us, we designed the car around that size. I mean, that's clever. Perhaps that's like proper partnership, isn't it? Thinking in, lateral thinking. The front tyres are now inside the nose, so that the lift generated by rotating of the tyres in a free air stream is almost completely cancelled. I calculated that the reduction in drag on our car would be the equivalent to at least 40 horsepower extra that we thought we would have if the car had that advantage. We would be competitive with Ferrari. General specification: a 6-wheel triple axle arrangement having 4 front wheels that steer and 4 front wheels with the first and second axles in tandem. 4 front wheels with the first. So actually the steering, I think, is connected to the front and they act like they're like linkages to the 2 rear. That's complicated. Mid-engined and rear-wheel drive car, water radius position, blah blah blah. It goes on to a lot of normal stuff, and then it just gives you some dimensions and things. Well, listen, the proof of the pudding was in the eating, and it was very successful, wasn't it? So, had it been developed longer, it probably would have been even more successful. Right, so that's the blurb. Let's have a look at the kit. Quite a remarkable and historic car. We have got here some Elf decals. We've even got Jody Schechter's helmet, because don't forget Tamiya do these driver figures you can buy separately. So we've got Jody's helmet design there, which he kept for years and went on to win the championship with Ferrari later. And of course Patrick Depailler. Do we have Depailler? Yeah, we've got Depailler markings. I think it's Depailler. These are Depailler's markings here. And these are Schechter's here. And then you've got the Elf logos. All very evocative of the 1970s, isn't it? Right, now then. This is actually an English version of the instructions, so we're going to be okay in terms of understanding what's going on, I think. So, let's have a look then. A bit too zoomy there. Let's come back. A little bit yellow, aren't they? So you start off building your Cosworth DFV V8 engine. And I've built several of these in different Tamiya kits, and I can tell you it's a little bit tricky just on the wiring. You've got to have dexterous fingers to do this wiring loom, where it comes out of the ignition system and goes into each individual. It's basically like a fuel injection plate, an ignition system, fuel injection plate, fuel injection system. It sort of repeats itself. Oh, okay. Plate left, plate right. Okay. Anyway, you can see here you're building up your. You start off with your engine intake trumpets, then you got your said wiring, an injection system. In fact, it is actually the fuel system rather than the electrics, isn't it? There. Then you've got your V of your Cosworth V8. What was it? 60 degrees, was it? I think it was. And then building it all up, bringing the cylinder heads on there. Then you're going to build your transmission gearbox at the back. I think it was a Hewland gearbox. It doesn't actually say in the spec, does it? Coney dampers. Doesn't say. I think we're using Hewland gearboxes. And then here we've got your, interestingly, which was very in vogue at the time, you have inboard disc brakes. They're not out in the hubs like we have in a lot of cars on the road today and racing cars. They were inboard, just exiting the gearbox, connected to the drive shafts. And the idea being just to get the centre of gravity very central in the car and not have a lot of unsprung weight sitting out at the corners, you know. You've got some what look like some nice constant velocity joints on the drive shafts there. Then we're getting into our typical engine spaghetti for the DFV V8, doing all your exhaust pipes and bringing them all, branching them all together. Then you're going to make your engine and gearbox together, complete with all the cooling system, anti-roll bars, etc. at the back. And then some good photographs here. It shows it quite helpful. It's almost Zukimura, isn't it? Or I think Zukimura have copied this. Showing the finished sort of section. Then you're going to put your exhaust pipes, your final exhaust pipes, and the back of the gearbox complete with the very rear of it with the sort of mounting plate and the hoops which hold in the exhaust pipes where they exit. Then you're onto your monocoque, or the sort of front of the chassis anyway, bulkhead and the floor complete with the pedals going in there. one of these strange Tamiya leaflet types, isn't it? It's a bit like a matchbox instruction leaflet, actually. Then we're bringing these two together. It looks like we've got a screw holding them in, a metal screw, which is good. It shows a screwdriver there. And then we're going to get into the suspension. This is when it gets a bit complicated and unusual. Now, this time we have outboard brakes, more conventional in their positioning. So they're inboard at the back, but they're not inboard at the front. They're out in the hubs, obviously. Which wasn't always the case in some of these cars of this era. But there they go. They sit in the relative position. You can see how you've got this arrangement with twin hubs and twin discs for twin wheels, on both sides. And here it is shown how they'll look when you've completed that section. So you've got your uprights and your lower arms coming in there, and then you've basically got yourself a chassis. Once you've assembled, it actually shows the photo of it assembled first before you've actually assembled it. It's a bit weird. Anyway, I think they're just using the margins, aren't they, for space. Then you've got your radiators coming in, and you've got your bottom of your steering column coming in, bringing in that front suspension assembly together. And then here we've got our, excuse me, here we've got our the front of the chassis now with the top bodywork coming in, including the tub where the driver's going to sit. This is your fuel tank, which it sits almost in. What could possibly go wrong, eh? And don't forget what happened to Niki Lauda. Was it just before or just after the German Grand Prix that these guys won the race? Can't remember, in Sweden. But this is when there weren't small accidents. Niki Lauda burst into flames because he was sitting in a similar arrangement to this, surrounded by fuel. For more details, see my 312T 12 scale review that I did, which was Ian Nichols's car, wasn't it, model. And there you have it. So you bring the floor together with the lower chassis and the top bodywork and chassis come together, and then we end up with the actual seat, moulded seat going in, and you've got the oil tank, steering wheel, instruments, all coming in there. And then, gosh, it's almost done actually. That's incredible how sort of you're almost finished. You've just got to bring in the rear parts now. You've got your mounting plate for your rear wing, central mounting pylon. There's oil cooler radiators as well that mount either side of that. And just on one side, sorry, on the right side. Oil cooler radiator. Strange place to put it. It's not very symmetrical, is it? How strange. Yes, it's true. Very strange. And then you get your rear wing. You're going to build up your rear wing, and then all conventional stuff now. Don't forget, this car has got this it had like a window. It's so that they could see the wheels turning, particularly at places like Monte Carlo, where you need to see how much lock they had cranked on. And it was just a help for them to have this clear window to see the actual wheels turning and the angle that they were at. And then you've got there's actually transparent plastic sheeting, is that provided? I presume it is. That goes in there, and your mirrors going on, and then here we've got the wheels and tyres coming together, and then finally just the end plates on the front wing bodywork, putting on your cockpit cowling, popping your rear wing, and your rear wheels in. That's it. And then you've got your lovely colour call out here, but it isn't in colour, but there we go. Showing, yes, you can see there that radiator at the back, it is just on one side, so that's the oil cooler. I'm a bit surprised because normally they'd put that in the centre, but anyway, that's just the way it is. And then finally, one or two others, you've got a few adverts for other kits. Does it have a date on this? I think it has a date on it. 1987, the kit, this particular version of the kit was released. Came out before then, of course, but that was the date of this particular iteration. 87, sounds about right, because I think before then they were always in Japanese, whereas this one's in English. Right then, so that's the background and that's the instructions. Let's have a look at the actual plastic. Oh, I'm really grateful to Andy for this, because I've never had this kit, never seen it before, so yeah, thank you. He's packed it all very well with some expensive looking tissue paper, to be honest. Don't think we can afford that now, huh? Right, we've got a silver, here we go, we're going to have staples. Oh, I forgot that. You might have to bear with me a little bit, folks, while I unstaple things. Let's start with this then. Now you'll recall on some of the other Tamiya kits that, was it the Ferrari? I think I was a bit unimpressed by the metallisation, but that was because they sort of went to town and metallised way too many parts really. I've got a sneaky suspicion this time they've done it a bit more sensibly. And they have. Let's have a look. Okay. Now then. So what you got here? You've got your the only problem is they've gone and got flash on it. Oh dear, not very Tamiya-like, is it? You see that? And the rollover hoop here, bit of flash. Oops, oopsie poopsie. Could have done without that. Anyway, you can soon fix it. If you've got something like a Molotov pen that's got a really high finish, I'm sure you can. You'll probably be able to do it. And if not, just spray it over with some Alclad or something, extreme metal, something like that. You've got your driver's mirrors glass here, and then you got your intake trumpets. Whoops, just turn that around. Your intake trumpets are here, and they look very nice. I mean, it does suit them, doesn't it? It's just that obviously when you trim off from the sprue, you end up with a bit of raw plastic at the side. It always causes problems, doesn't it? It's still. You see, this is an era when, era of Matchbox, obviously, and they were still aiming a lot of thinking towards kids doing it without having to paint it in the Matchbox style almost. But that's pretty decent sprue, apart from that bit of flash, which just lets it down a tad. Let's have a look what else we got. Next one. No, we've got two here. Bags that are... Oh, zoom you back here, it's all a bit confusing. Two bags that seem to be stuck together with some tape. I think that's done for transit reasons. Okay, so yes, it's staple time. I do wish Tamiya, get rid of the staples, please. It's not 1976 anymore. This is quite ridiculous. You can get these self-sealing bags that we've seen all the other manufacturers, apart from Airfix, seem to use, and well, some of the Chinese as well. It can be done, There are better ways than staples for sure. So fiddly. When you get clear parts, staples and clear parts don't mix. Right, Cosworth DFV V8 engine, here it comes. Now this is a generic Tamiya sprue for this engine because it's in so many others like the Lotus 77, 78, 79, so on and so on and so on. The list goes on and on. Aren't they nice though? They do this, the moulding here is really good. You've got, even your exhausts are moulded quite well. It's just a tiny hint of flash there, but it is a hint, you can just about spot it. But most of these, like your engine V bank there, that is very nicely done. Gearbox casing here. Over here you've got your cylinder, sides of the cylinders. The block and the cylinders, I should say, cylinder head. Here's the cylinder head where the trumpets go in, the intake trumpets, and you've got all your fuel injectors here, and little radiator there. I think that's the one that goes in the nose, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just all very nice, isn't it? And just a generic, Ford V8. You get that same sort of mini kit almost in many other Tamiya Formula 1 cars. So that's very nice. Then we have got the a couple of sprues in this bag actually, not just one. Again, we've just got to put up with these staples. So I find having the gloves on makes it a bit easier to get them out, he says. Famous last words. I immediately start struggling. One. And two. Oh, it's on the phone, never mind. Right, okay, here we go then. So, okay, now here we go. Now we're really hitting the reality of this kit and what it's really all about. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. It's the front tyres. These tiny, unique to this kit and this car, of course. The Goodyear small section, low profile front tyres. Very nice, aren't they? Very nice. Bit of a seam line on them, but that's fairly typical for the era on these kits anyway. But that is fantastic. So there you are, there's your six-wheeler. The secret of this car's success is that low profile front wheels, and here are the actual wheels themselves, and I'm glad they weren't tempted to put these in that chromed finish, because that'd be wrong anyway. And there they are, the 3-spoke, I think they were Speedline wheels if memory serves, but I can't be quite sure. And then you've got all your, like a focus, all your suspension arms, the actual wishbones. You see how the assembly everything is doubled up. A very unusual setup, and here's the lower side of it. And then we've got our things like the these are actually the steering controls to each one of the steering assemblies. And then you've got your little brake discs with the calipers on them. Those are nice, aren't they? And then you've got some shock absorber springs, or shock absorber and spring I should say. They're like coilovers, aren't they, basically? Very short, aren't they? Very short indeed. And then just flip it round, and then we've got the anti-roll bar. The rollover bar, I mean, not the anti-roll bar as in the suspension. Although you have got the anti-roll bar for the suspension behind, funnily enough. Yeah, and you've got, what are those? I think there's the wheel caps. I think those are the wheel caps at the top left. 4 of them. And then here's your little tiny hubs. Right, it's nice, isn't it? It's weird. It's almost like a Formula 1 car because they're so small, the wheels. Everything's scaled down. It's almost like a different scale, isn't it? Let's just pop that away. That's a nice sprue. And then we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the car, really. And I particularly like these the drive shaft and hubs with the universal joints look and the rubber boots on them. See that? Now at this end, on this one here, at this end is where your brakes will be, the brake discs. Instead of having them out here where you'd expect them to be, they're actually on the inboard side. Same on this one in reverse. So your brake discs could be here, not here. And you get your radiators, and oops, that's a little bit funny on the sprue there. And you get your rear disc. These are these inboard rear discs I've just talked about. Disc brakes. And you get your pedals, as you can see. Steering wheel over here. You get your main. These are the main rear wheel internals of the rear wheel. Steering wheel, instruments. There's your oil radiator that sits rather awkwardly on the right side for some reason. I can't get my head around why they didn't sight that in a better place. And then you've got the the cylinder heads. And you see the Ford logo. Well, it's not the logo. It's just the lettering Ford on the cylinder heads, which looks really good when you just highlight it a little bit, you know, a bit of silver on there. It looks absolutely fantastic. Really makes it pop. And then you've just got all the other little bits of a couple of the track rod arms and things like that. And there we go. So that's pretty much it. Just a few control rods and blah blah. All very good stuff. Okay, so that's that one. Then we have got our little bag of goodies with our major rear tyres in it, nicely. And more staples. Good job I've had some practice, isn't it? Oh, he says. Practice isn't showing, because it's been very reluctant, this one. Sometimes they just sort of get lost. I've got that stuck in my glove now. Ouch! Luckily it wasn't in my finger. So, oh yeah, oh, these are nice. Got the Goodyear logo actually sort of embossed into them. Just a quick word. our old friend, sadly departed, Pete Holroyd from Oz Scale Modelling. He built the bigger version, the 12 scale version of this, and he was he and I had a little bit of a chat about it because I was admiring his build, thought he did a great job of it. But at the very end, he was trying to do this lettering. He was trying to hand paint them. He was having a hell of a job, and in the end, I said, it's so difficult to make it look right. Either leave them black like they are here, or if you want to have them with the white lettering, which is actually more realistic. So he was kind of doing the right thing for realism. I said, just get some decals. I just rub that down with get some fine sanding stick on it, remove them, and then get them smooth, and then I just decal them, And I'm not sure if he did that in the end or not. I can't quite remember whether he actually, because he had already done it, and I'm not sure whether he could be bothered going back and doing it really. Which is fair enough, but sadly, a few weeks after that, after we were talking, he was gone, sadly. Died in that horrible motorcycle accident, or as a result of it anyway. He was having treatment in hospital a week afterwards anyway. So, yeah, rest in peace, Pete. We remember your Tyrrell P34. I'll always remember it. Being no doubt about that, mate. So, it's just a warning, that struggle he had, I think we all face when we come up against this same problem. It's a bit of a dilemma. What do? Do you try and paint it, or do you decal it? I think it's tricky. It's on both sides as well, so it is tricky. I think I'd be awfully tempted to leave these, because I think that once you start down the dark path, as Yoda would say, forever we dominate your destiny. But it's a very difficult path to tread and get it just right, especially at this scale, being a bit smaller. I think it's really difficult. It is really, really tricky, and you're going to spend a lot of hours trying to, especially if you do both sides, crimes, you'll be there forever. So I'd be tempted to leave it. What does it show in the actual instructions? I didn't notice actually. Let's just have a quick look. Okay, it did show them painted. Just one second, I'll show you, because I have it to hand. There wasn't a decal for it though. Sorry, I should show you this. So you can see that they are painted up there. There wasn't a decal, was there? I don't think there was. No, there's no decals included. It's a bit trial and error, I think. A bit trial and error. I got the feeling as well when poor old Pete Holroyd, rest in peace, when he was having this problem, I got the feeling that on the bigger scale kit, the embossing was quite subtle, more subtle than it is on this. So maybe with this kit, maybe it could be done. Maybe it could be done. An easier way might be to do it in reverse and just paint the area white, and then get a toothpick and just remove the bits where it shouldn't be. That might actually be simpler than trying to get 100% perfect paint on it. Really difficult. But these do feel very extremely pronounced. And I'm not sure they were on the 12 scale kit, so actually it might be okay. Anyway, there's also some wire in there, and that screw, I must have noticed that. So that's those, which now takes us to the final sprue, which is the blue one. Got all the glamorous bodywork on it. You can have all your elf stickers. Of course, not much later, when Renault came into Formula 1, Alf kind of abandoned Tyrrell a little bit, didn't they, unfortunately? And they ended up going to people like Data General and XP, the parcel delivery people, sort of the late 80s. Right then, let's have a look at this one. And as usual, Tamiya's plastic, not perfect in this era, of course, as we saw with that Ferrari and Lotus 78, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's almost get away with not painting it sort of job, given all the sponsor logos that go on these. From a distance you wouldn't really notice it wasn't painted, but you do get some sink occasionally, an occasional just minor, you just see it there, just some minor flaws here and here. Minor little flaws in the plastic from time to time, bit of sinkage. Here you've got your driver's seat. such as it was. And then here you've got your cockpit, what do they call it? Cockpit shroud, cockpit cowling. And then there's the clear window mentioned, which they look through, so they can see the wheels. Because obviously the problem with these is that you might think, what do they need to see the wheels for? They don't normally have a window in the side. Yeah, but they normally have quite a big... You've got to think about how small these wheels are. Once you're sat back in the cockpit, you can't really see them because they're so low profile. Whereas on a normal Formula 1 car, you can see the wheels and which angle they're at. So it became a problem that I think they only realised later that they needed to add that. So I think it was a slight afterthought having the window in the side of the cockpit. But it was necessary, you know. So there you go. So there's your cockpit sides. Yeah, it's a shame it's split down the middle like that. That's a bit unfortunate. These days, that'd all be slide moulded in one big piece, of course. You've also got your rear wing mounts, which it has a really beefy rear wing on the P34 Tyrrell. So they have to be substantial. And there's the wing itself. And there it is. So it's nice, isn't it? It's a nice kit. I mean, the only criticisms at all would be just a tiny, tiny bit of flash. But given the year this came out, 1976, this was almost flash-free by comparison with other model manufacturers, I've got to tell you. No names, you know who they are. I don't mean Matchbox, obviously, I'm talking about the others. But yeah, it's a beautiful kit. I like the fact the colours are kind of accurate as well. Well, that's nice. Which one did that come out of, by the way? I think those should all be together, those tackers. I think they should be together. Let's put them together. Put them in one bag. There we are. I think we'll just take that one because I'm just worried about the screw being locked. Bear with me a second. So what did you think? It's an iconic bit of motor racing history, this car. Unforgettable if you ever saw it. It was weird because when you saw it going into corners, I only watched it on TV, I didn't see it live ever. I didn't go to Grand Prix when I was that young. But it used to look like a toboggan almost because it was all the back end and the front was just like this. The nose just looked like a shovel digging into the corner almost. It looked most peculiar on TV anyway when I saw it. Took a bit of getting used to, but it was certainly exciting because it was so different. And it's, you know, as a youngster, it really stirred your imagination a little bit, I've got to say. Right, well that has been very, very nicely done. I might not keep the tissue in there because I can use that for modelling, and now it's arrived safely, we're alright. Thanks very much to Andy anyway for sending it, because it's deeply appreciated. As I say, I've never had the kit before, so he really has hit the bullseye with that one. And it's an absolutely fantastic kit, to be honest. So what we're going to give it then? So I think, again, I've said this before with these older kits, you have to mark it out of 10 relative to its year of manufacture, 1970, well it's 87 this came out. It actually came out about 78, 79 in truth. We'll call it 87 anyway. I'm going to give that 9.75 out of 10 because apart from the most tiniest hint of sink, very, very subtle though, and a little bit of flash here and there, apart from that it's absolutely perfect really. Very clear instructions, and you see them at shows. They always look beautiful when they're in the shows. There's that special interest group, the motorsport group, isn't there? And every time they go to a show, I've seen 95% of their kits, models finished. I've seen them before, and before then, and before that. But I just can't keep away. It just sucks me in like a magnet, really. It's always enjoyable to see their work. Even though I've seen them for years and years and years. There are kits there I've probably seen for 15 years, some of them. But they're just enjoyable to look at. Beautiful things, you know. And lovely craftsmanship. So, 9.75 out of 10 from me. Hope you found it interesting. Bit of a trip down memory lane for the Formula 1 fans amongst you. I certainly enjoyed that, and there's a real possibility I'll build that. I'm being serious. It won't be any time soon, but there's a real possibility that would be built because, as some of you know, in my cabinet I've currently got the the 1978 Brabham fan car, another iconic car. I've got the Lotus 79 ground effect car, the first proper full-on ground effect car. And then this would complement the two of them perfectly. So a very, very real possibility. I'd say the odds are 65-70% odds that I'm going to build that. So thank you very much, Andy. It won't be anytime soon, so don't hold your breath, but it will happen. It will happen because it would just slot into my collection and look absolutely just right. So thanks very much. Anyway, I hope you thought the video was interesting and entertaining, and thank you for watching. Thanks to Andy for his generosity, and until next time, stay well, stay safe, look after yourselves. Thanks for all your time, and bye for now.